You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining us is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Happy Friday, folks.
Also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, wife dork.
Hello.
And Brad Gullickson, psych, he still hasn't returned yet. It is I, Darren.
He's writing the Chattanooga Choo-Choo.
Yay. And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, and welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast, Fistful Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. TGIFF. In honor of, who's making the poor decisions? What was
Truth or Dare, or the decision to make Rampage?
Wow. Yikes. Shots fired.
Man.
Pow, pow, pow. Man. So, yeah, what Lisa said.
Or just the tough choice of what are you going to go see at the theater?
All right.
Is either choice a great choice?
In honor of that, we have a fistful of bad decisions. Brian, would you do us the honor of giving your number 5?
Oh, sorry. I'm sitting up here looking for, and I'm watching one now on YouTube. And
Is that your number 5?
no,
Okay, because
no.
the listeners they're waiting. They want to know what your number 5 is.
Oh God, no! Looking at these horror movies, but horror movies is actually a good place where you have a lot of people making a lot of bad decisions.
Yep.
But I'll get to that later. My first bad decision is Vince Vaughn in the film Made. Him and I just thought about this. Him and I love him and Jon Favreau. They are great as a comedy duo. Swingers is one of my favorite movies of all times. And his character of Trent in Swingers is one of my favorite characters. He's just so hilarious. But the second film that they did together, Made, Vince Vaughn just plays a bumbling idiot that just makes bad decision after bad decision that takes them down this rabbit hole of just someplace so far gone it almost feels like they can't get out of it. I'm trying to recall the movie in my head, but from what I remember, I know they were working at a construction site. I remember he sold the van, and then he had to get money for that. So then they send him to New York to meet up with like Puff Daddy or somebody, and then I just remember that one scene in the car. He tells him, they go to the club, he tells him not to mention somebody by a certain name.
Red Dragon.
And he mentions him by that name, and then Puff Daddy goes off on them in the limo when they leave the club. And yeah, he's just one of those characters that just, you watch that movie and you're just like, oh my God. And Jon Favreau, like their duo works so well just because of how Favreau reacts to some of the lunacy that Vince Vaughn does on screen, whether it is Swingers or Made. But yeah, his character in Made just makes so many bad decisions, man. That's my number 5.
That's a good number 5, B. I got to go back and rewatch that movie.
I do too.
Peter Falk is the guy who they work for, and he was pissed.
Yeah, when he sold the van.
Yeah, that was a good pick. Wife Dork, your number 5.
My number 5, I decided to open up with the horror movie route.
Yeah.
A lot of horror movies have the premise of, this is the situation, you have to follow these rules.
Yeah.
And then see if you live or not. And generally you don't. So I thought I'd go with the Saw franchise.
That's what I was just, yeah.
So it's weird because I've only seen the first Saw film.
Really? That's
and the last Saw film, I saw Jigsaw.
Okay.
That was a poor decision. Let's just start right there. That I made. I did. Brad said, would you like to see Jigsaw with me?
So you're your
and
number
I said,
5?
Yes, sir. I would like to see that film with you. Now, I'm not my number 5 because all decisions I make are solid.
Yeah.
I'm a strong female character
on
this podcast. And so there is one scene. So they're going from Jigsaw sets up his little puzzles and, feeding off of people's weaknesses. And so if you're in a jigsaw puzzle, this is just a free advice. If you're in a jigsaw puzzle and there's a door that's marked no exit, don't try that door. Just take the door's word for it.
Yeah.
Because Ryan, that's the name of the character when I Googled it, Ryan, if you try the door, then the razor wires are going to take that foot. They're just going to take it and hold on to it. And then when Anna and Mitch are trapped in the silo with the grain and stuff and the razor blades coming down, you're going to lose that foot. You're going to have to trade that foot for their lives. And you put you in that position.
Yeah.
You did. Mm-hmm. You did, Ryan. Get your shit together.
Poor decision making, Ryan.
Indeed. So that's why Ryan in Jigsaw is my number 5.
All right. This is, you know what I'm gonna do? I have so many picks that I'm gonna give these to our virtual Brad. So if Brad were here, this would be his number 5, and it's gonna be a shout out to the Alamo Draft House and our Lost Weekend, and it's gonna be Young Offenders.
Nice.
So these two kids make really poor decisions when they see a news story about a shipment of cocaine washing up ashore, and they decide to go down there and get them a bale of cocaine and sell it and become rich millionaires. And then hilarity ensues and coming of age stuff ensues, and two friends grow apart and get back together and become best friends. And it's a great film, really funny, and it's heartwarming in its own way, and it's charming. So yeah, that would be Brad's number 5. Not really. My number 5 is gonna be Alpha Dog, and that stars the late Anton Yelchin. It stars, I want to say Olivia Thirlby is in it, Bruce Willis is in it, Sharon Stone is in it, and it is the film where these Emil Hirsch is in it also, and you know these California kids, these rich white kids, they're living the dream, and they're you know involved in like they want to be gangsters, and they're involved in some stuff that you know they shouldn't be involved in, and they end up kidnapping Anton Yelchin's character and to not necessarily. I don't even think it was they were holding him for ransom. They kidnap him, not thinking things through, and then stuff escalates, and they end up having to kill him and bury him in a really sad and brutal scene at the end of that film. And then they get in trouble for that, and they have to go to jail. And Bruce Willis and Sharon Stone are crying, and she's in this old person makeup, and it just looks horrible. But anyway, that story I always found it like heartbreaking and gut wrenching. What happens to Anton Yelchin? And this is like before his tragedy. This movie came out in the early 2000s, I want to say. It's an okay movie. It's directed by I'm drawing a blank, but he was in The Wraith and he was in Face Off with the bald head.
Nick Cassavetes?
Yes, it's directed by him, and it's a decent film, but it's just filled with young kids making poor decisions. Oh, and it also stars an apeshit Ben Foster, my favorite Ben Foster role. So check that movie out. So that's my number 5. Brian, your number 4 in A Fistful of Poor Decisions.
Man, I don't know where I want to go next. Let me go with a movie that I love. I may have used it plenty of times on the podcast before, but I'm going to go with Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah!
Rick Moranis, his bad decision was giving Audrey 2 a drop of his blood. Shouldn't have done that.
This is a really persuasive plant, though.
Was he, though? I don't know. Like...
Well, at that point, it looked all cute.
It did, yeah. It did look
It was
cute.
hungry, and it was like his baby.
Yeah. And
like,
the way
when you give anything
it didn't
for
even
your
say
baby.
anything. It just died. It just killed over and like.
Yeah, and like I don't know. I guess there is something to be said when you're like at a drop and you see it like stretching this little stem to get after it. It's like, that's so cute.
You know who made the poor decision? Audrey staying with the freaking dentist.
There's a lot of bad decisions in that movie. there were, but yeah, I would pick. I'll pick Seymour giving it because if he didn't give him the blood, then none of this would have never happened. But maybe he never would have got Audrey.
See,
and so I mean, there's a lot of roundabout ways, that it starts off as a bad decision, but it ends up being a good decision. But he could have still got Audrey in other ways. He just had to man up.
Oh, okay. All right.
But yeah, that's my number 4.
Lisa, your number 4.
My number 4 is a movie that I do not love. That is the Safdie Brothers' Good Time.
Yes.
I do not enjoy this movie. It is gross. But there's no argument that Connie, who's played by Robert Pattinson, is the Mr. Magoo of poor decision making.
Yes.
He is just bumping in the dark of his own lack of reason from one place to the next, wreaking havoc. He denies his brother's therapy. Then he does a terrible job of robbing a bank. Then he takes the wrong body out of the hospital.
Whoops.
Can't recognize your own brother, or lack the size difference alone is just obvious. He seduces a 16-year-old girl. That's disgusting. Fills the guy from Captain Phillips with LSD.
Oh God!
Horrible decision. And of course he ends up getting arrested again. That's probably the best thing to happen to him in this entire movie. But the worst thing about this character, about the character of Connie, is that you get the sense that he somehow thinks he's like ahead of the curve. Like he prides himself on being like a real system-beating criminal mastermind, and he's just not. He's just an idiot. Stumbling forward through life until he falls on his fucking face to the detriment of everyone around him.
That was a great pick.
A complete incubus. Okay. Yep, that's an incubus of stupidity. I'm done.
That's a great pick.
Thank you. That's my number 4.
I thought about that one, but that's a great pick. All right. Brad's number 4 is Deacon Frost, because some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill. Do not try to ice skate uphill. It is poor decision making, and do not try to fight Blade if he's being played by Wesley Snipes, because he will kick your ass, make you swell up and explode. So that's Brad's number 4. My number 4 is Cop Car.
Yay!
John Watts' film.
Steal a cop car.
That's right, starring Kevin Bacon. And the 2 kids who steal his cop car that has some precious cargo in the trunk. First of all, you don't steal cars. Second of all, don't steal cop cars. Third of all, don't steal a cop car when there's a body in the trunk. And then that body's not dead. That's bad stuff waiting to happen. And then you're playing with guns and all kind of other crazy shit. So those kids are understandably, because of their age and lack of maturity and experience, making really poor decisions. But it's a great film. It makes for great drama. And that's my number 4, Cop Car. Brian, your number 3.
All right, so my number 3 again. This kind of is reflects my last pick, where it's initially a bad decision, or it could be seen as a bad decision. It all depends on how you look at it. I'm going to say the decision for Neo to take the red pill.
He really did inconvenience himself with that one.
I mean,
he could have had a real easy time.
Yeah, I would rather just have the veil over my eyes and just continue to live my life. Don't show me the truth. I'm not interested.
You don't want to be woke?
This is a price to pay to be woke. This is a price to pay. I don't know, man. Like Joey Pants said in the film, he was like, "Ignorance is bliss." So
you all about that bliss.
So I don't know, man. But I mean, look, if he was the one, then he had to take the other one. But I don't know which one was which. Was the red or the blue? I don't know.
It's a good thing that they don't make movies about me and Brian, because they would be so short.
Exactly.
Like Lisa starring in A Quiet Place, just immediate death. She's just out there with an air horn. Brah.
As soon as the baby gets killed, Lisa screams and she gets killed. Movie up. Was that the opening and the closing? Goddamn.
Pretty much,
Brian
man. Yeah,
takes the other pill. I forget the colors.
Yeah, the blue pill or whatever, and then I'll just keep living my life. Go back to sleep.
Dreams.
Yeah, like Neo and Trinity. I mean, Morpheus and Trinity. Y'all go do y'all thing.
Yeah.
Find another one.
You've got it at hand.
He's like, "You sure? Are you sure you want this blue pill? Are you sure? You're 100% positive?
He really did.
You sure?
He did the hard sell on the red pill.
He did. So I don't know. I mean, and Neo was curious. He felt like something was off. I feel like something's off in my life all the time.
But you ain't taking that pill.
I'm good, man. Like, look, I mean, if I feel off, I'll take a nap. I'm good. So
All right, Lisa. Your number 3.
For my number 3, I'm going for the 1986 classic Pretty in Pink.
Yay.
Because she should have ended up with Ducky, clearly. Blake is an asshole. And if you're just going for like sheer sexual energy, then the clear choice is James Spader. Go with Steph. So, yeah, they did like the original ending, according to Wikipedia. The original ending was that she would end up with Ducky, but then like the closed-minded '80s audiences were like, "No, look at the hair."
Yeah.
They're like, "You got to go with Blaine. He's got a car." You can't argue with that show. You can't. But that is the wrong decision. Go, whenever my single friends, they're like, what kind of guy? I'm like, go with the nerd. Always go with the nerd.
Yeah.
You know why? Because they show their enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. They know how to spend money on what they love.
Yeah.
And yeah, they'll become your number one fan. And who doesn't want a fan? Exactly. So go with Ducky.
Yeah.
Always.
Great pick. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Brad's number 3 is Gloria from Colossal. She's when we first meet her in the film, you get the idea that she has made a bunch of poor decisions in her life, and it is the crux of which her character arc rests on for her to take control of her life and start making some good decisions. And it leads for a very interesting and fulfilling character arc. A great movie if you haven't seen it. I don't hear people talk about it nearly enough.
Except for on this podcast. We talk about it all the time.
As we must. It's our duty. It's our civic
right.
duty to spread the word on Nacho Villagando's great piece of cinema. And so that would make sense that would be Brad's number 3. Probably not. But my number 3 is going to be Brawl in Cell Block 99.
Yes. There's a lot of bad decisions in that movie.
Yes. And particularly the one that takes place on the dock when he decides to go back and get involved in the shenanigans between the 2 hired goons and the police. That lands him in jail, and that decision would come back to haunt him almost immediately. And so, it's a movie that we talk about on the podcast a lot. We got to see it at Fantastic Fest, and I've since rewatched it on home video. And it's just a great movie. It's a great, nice little piece of grindhouse exploitation-esque filmmaking. And Vince Vaughn, speaking of Vince Vaughn, Brian, he gives a great performance. That's totally night and day against his characters in Maid and also Swingers. But it's the role and the character and shines. The movie is elevated all the more for it. And, you got some gnarly violence in there, which is it's all good with disco. So, yeah, that'd have to be my number 3 in poor decision-making is Brawl in Cell Block 99. Brian, your number 2.
All right, so my number 2 is a classic, Spielberg classic. That is Jaws, and it is the mayor for not closing the beach.
Yes. Oh my God, that would be on Brad's list. Show.
This dumbass, just for whatever reason, like it's 4th of July weekend. He wants the crowds. He wants people to come to the beach, and Roy Scheider is trying to tell him, like, look, there's a giant ass shark in the water.
It's eating people today.
Yeah, you got to close the beach. And he don't want to close the beach. And it comes back and literally bites him in the ass. So, that was just probably the worst decision. It put other people's lives in danger, for his own, whatever, to get more, money or whatever to come to
buy more suits, suits.
Yeah, to come to his Amity Island or whatever. Like, it's just not worth it. So, yeah, that's my number 2, Jaws.
All right, great pick. Lisa, your number 2.
My number 2 harkens back to our review cast earlier in the week, A Quiet Place. John Krasinski, great dad, but when you have a choice of all of the tools in with the long handles, and you have a choice between an axe and a pitchfork, go for the pitchfork. It's longer, and the thing with the axe is that you have to swing an axe. With the pitchfork, you can just go pokey.
Okay.
And it's like a big fork. He's like a big crustacean. Just poke him with the big fork. Get a little butter. I bet you tastes amazing. He's like lobster of the sky. Bad decision.
That does sound yummy, though.
It does sound yummy. Anything covered in butter is pretty great. John Krasinski covered in butter.
Y'all can eat a damn butter-covered alien if you want to. I'm not eating that shit. That's the blue pill for me. I'm going to go starve. Okay. Brad's hypothetical number 2 is going to be Machete. Actually, it's from Machete, or actually it's from the trailer of Machete from Grindhouse, and it's really on the part of the government because they fucked with the wrong Mexican. So they hire Machete to do an assassination, but then they shoot him to try to frame him for it, and because of that, he goes on a killing spree and lays waste to all of these people. And he goes to get the help of Father, played by Cheech Marin, and then he's all shooting people in the face with double-barrel shotguns, and the Machete has a motorcycle with a Gatling gun on the top of it, and it's just all sorts of badass. Now, I wish the movie could have been the same. Maybe we didn't need the movie. Maybe it would have been better. Maybe that's the poor decision to make that.
Well, I mean, the first one was okay. The second one...
You hear what you just said?
Okay.
All right, the trailer was great.
Well, yeah.
All right, so yeah, that's the Brad's hypothetical number 2, Machete. My number 2 is going to be Victoria.
Oh yeah.
And that is the film where there's a young lady who she meets this group of guys one night hanging out partying, and they hit it off, and then after they leave the club, they go hang out some more and drink, and then they spark up some fun conversations, and they have a really good time on the streets, and then she has to go back to work the next morning, but right before she starts her shift, something happens and they ask her to accompany them on a run, and she turns out she's fallen in with some pretty bad people.
Yeah.
And these guys are trying to rob someone, and they need a getaway driver, so she gets entangled in that. And then the rest of the night just spirals out of control from there. A great story, a great premise, but what's really cool is the selling point in a lot of discussions is the fact that this film all of this is done in a single take. And it's a 2-hour film, actually. And it's amazing that a 2-hour film done in a single take can sustain and hold my interest at the very least. And I just find it a very gratifying and rewarding experience following these characters in this unbroken fashion, and just having the story unravel with characters that especially the lead girl, that someone that you can gravitate towards, or at least find yourself going along the ride with her. And so I don't know, it's a really interesting film. I enjoy it. I've seen it 2 times theatrically, and I have it on home video, and I watch it occasionally, and it's a really good film outside of the gimmick of it being all shot in one take.
Yeah, it is. I've been wanting to rewatch that. When we saw it last weekend, I think we saw it. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it then. I've been wanting to rewatch that. I've been thinking about that film. So yeah.
That's my number 2. Brian, your number 1.
So my number 1, I think it might be on either you or Brad's hypothetical list.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. And
Pop star?
If I
Oh,
no.
yeah. I did think of that one.
Yeah. But if I take it, then sorry. But it is The Mist. The ending to The Mist. If he only would have waited.
That's a great
If he just would have waited.
Damn, B, that's a great pick.
I couldn't even imagine being Thomas Jane's character and seeing and having to live with that choice.
He's probably not going to live with that choice.
He probably won't. He probably won't. Yeah, he's probably not living past that night. Jesus, that was just, oh man, that was so heartbreaking to even see as an audience member. But yeah, like for that to happen at that moment, and literally minutes, not even minutes, maybe seconds, to have that threat to be kind of, taken care of, and you see the art, and it's just like, oh my God, dude.
See, that's why you take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't have even, I'd be like, oh my God, the lines at this grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's my number 1, The Mist.
That's a good one.
That is a great one. All right, Lisa, you're number 1.
Rose could have just moved over.
Duh.
My number 1 is the Titanic. There's plenty of room on that plank. Jack is like, no, just you be comfy. I'll just become a human icicle.
Yeah. Wait, but was that Jack's decision or Rose's decision?
Jack was just like, you stay right there. And Rose was like, sure.
Okay.
And either one of them, Jack could have been like,
yeah.
just scoot over. I've got you. I'm not going to let you fall in the water.
Because their weight would have balanced it. Because when he tried to, it tipped over a little bit, but you're right. He could have.
Mythbusters actually myth-busted it. So it's
really?
science that Jack could have lived, and they could have lived happily ever after with the diamond.
So Mythbusters proved that he could have stayed. He could have got on there.
Yeah.
Didn't have to freeze to death.
Yeah. That was just support. I don't think he intended to freeze to death. He's like,
No.
she'll remember me this way. Like, it was just poor decision making. He was just like, I can take this cold. What a man.
Ugh.
What a dude. I can take it. No, you can't.
Turn into an icicle.
You'll have floppy hair. You have floppy 90s hair, and you're sinking to the bottom of the ocean.
You got those frost tips.
That's right. Yes. Bring it home, Brian.
Wow. All right. That's a great pick.
Why, thank you.
That's a great pick. My number one, or Brad's hypothetical number one. This would be nowhere on Brad's list, but I have to say it because I thought of it, and I don't want to put it on my list. It's my number one, and it's from it's from Andy Samberg's Pop Star, Never Stopping.
Yeah.
And it's from my favorite scene in the movie. It's one that you don't actually see, and it's a poor choice to tell the people documenting the movie to cut the cameras off because we missed a totally gnarly bee attack by a giant bee that they killed with a flamethrower, and it would have made for some great cinema, but we don't get to see it.
Yeah.
Now it could be that, or it could be the wedding sequence where they have the wolves and Seal is singing and disturbing the wolves. So actually hiring wolves and wolf wrangler to have wild animals at your wedding, that can be a poor decision as well. So that movie is full of them, but
it's full
but
of
I
poor
like the bee scene the most. But my number one, not only is it, this one would be poor decision making on the filmmaker's part, but we wouldn't have the film had they not done it, and it is Roar.
Yeah.
So someone thought it'd be a good idea to film a movie with live wild animals, untamed lions and cougars and shit like that, and it gets nuts.
They're so majestic. Where's my scalp?
Exactly. Like, it is not. Who thought that was a good idea? It is insane to me that movie exists. That those people made it through filming, and but not unscathed though. You actually
super scathed, way scathed.
Yes, way scathed. And some of it is on screen. You get to see some of the injuries happen on camera, and it's pretty gruesome. But it's so fascinating that someone thought that this was a good idea, and then they did it, and then they fashioned it into this nonsensical narrative. It's nuts. If you haven't seen Roar, I don't even know that I can recommend it to everybody, but I kind of do. It's one of those movies that you want to watch other people watch to see their reaction. One of my favorite screenings at the Alamo. That audience and myself went nuts when we saw that movie. It's insane. That's my number one in my Fistful of Poor Decisions. You can hit us up on social media at ItModcast on Twitter and at ItModcast on Facebook, and let us know what your top 5 poor decisions are. There got to be a lot. There are so many. And like Brian said, you can just stay in the horror genre
pretty much
and do your fistful 10 times over. But yeah, let us know what your top 5 poor decisions are. And you can follow Brian at The Turtle Dork on Twitter, at The Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. Wife Dork is at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. She's also at Bake Dork on Twitter.
Yeah.
And Mouth Dork is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untappd. And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Go see Rampage. It might turn out to be a good decision.
Looks fun, man. Looks fun.
But if not for nothing, just so you can be privy to our review cast when we talk about that film. And also, you're just biding time for Infinity War. So, it'll be here soon. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Go watch some more movies. And until next time.